I'd like to hear, Leo, from the point of view of sound. I'm sure you have something to say.
Thanks for the introduction there.
It's all about sound.
It is. I think if you say, come, sit. And you can also say, come, sit. And those are the same set of words. But there's something else going on there. One is what you might say to a close friend. And the other is what you might say to a dog. I'm just touching on the fact that each of us is a transmitter and each of us is a receiver. And we're transmitting on all these levels. Certainly, when I was meditating just then, I did one of my favorite things in meditation. And that is to go with the energy of all the other meditators in the world right now. Because this notion that meditation is a knack, and you can catch the knack by sitting next to someone who has the knack. And here I am in my studio, and seemingly a long way away from everyone else, but I do feel connected by the very globe that we're sitting on. And being a person who has done over 1,500 of these online mantra things because of the broadcast of the Guru Gita, I'm not saying that in an ego way. I'm saying I'm familiar with the territory. And I feel the other people who are currently practicing when I'm practicing. So I felt like I was in a hall, and I felt like the energy of everyone who was meditating was also something that I could just get onto. And certainly there's my personal sort of, following the breath and all those sorts of things. But there's also the energy that is available with a group. And I think that energy is available at all times, because at all times there are people, great meditators, the really top people in your mind that you want to get with, they're sitting on this same planet. So in a way, we sort of share the same asana, the same seat. And I think you can tap into that energy and go into meditation through that. And the other thing I wanted to say is that it's funny when you think about the heart, which is in all cultures the source of unlimited love. And in yoga philosophy, it's also the seat of the ego. And they're in the same place. When you go, I want it, sometimes you put your hand up, but you say, oh, me. So it's in here that you feel that I, me, mine, Leo, but also inside of that is this love. And I'm always looking for places to add the mantra that don't feel like I'm a chore, I'm a yogi, I better do japa. And it turns out there are a lot of them. For instance, when you're brushing your teeth, it's like a japa mala, so I do Guru Om when I'm brushing each tooth, or when I'm waiting in a queue, I have the habit of breathing in and out of my toes and in and out of my feet and repeating mantra. And one of the things that I think that I did want to say today is that there's this notion that mantra is something that you might apply to the overactive part of yourself. And I found that actually the opposite is a very good approach. So if I have an overactive forebrain, for instance, then rather than using the mantra to go to war with the overactivity, Then I go, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the opposite end of my body or some other part, and I'll just breathe in and out of that. And by using the mantra and going to another place, still in my body, then I find it's sort of the overactivity just settles down. So there was a film in 1967. It won an Oscar for art direction. I looked it up last night, and it was called Fantastic Voyage. And it was one of those old sci-fi movies where they shrink everyone down and they inject them in a little submarine into someone's body, and they travel around to every part of your body. And they were looking out the eyes, and then they were, in the toe and various places. And it was very beautiful in the film. And I think for me, mantra is inherently tied to taking that fantastic voyage throughout the day, and also my breath. The very first day that I arrived in India, great thing happened. It was very Indian. I loved it. Glenn and I, we got out of the car, out of the taxi. We'd gone from the airport to the ashram, and we were told it cost $35 Australian to go from the airport to the ashram. So I had $35 Australian. Didn't have the rupees or anything. I was really green, had no idea. And I knew, anyway, that was the case. So I haggled and I found a taxi driver. He saw the Australian dollars. He knew what they were worth. He said, I'm going to take you there. And it was a $20 bill, a $10 bill, and a $5 bill. So we get out of the car and I give him the money, and then I turn around and he's shouting at me, saying, that man has ripped me off. He's stolen my money. Look at this. Now, it being India, a very large crowd formed immediately out of nowhere. And there's all these people leaning in like this, and they're looking at him, and they're looking at me, and they're looking at the money, right? And he's got in his hand a $10 bill Australian, $5 bill Australian, and a 20 rupee note. He's trying to make out that I've ripped him off. So stupidly, I'm arguing with the guy, even though, and I'm trying to tell Glenn, look, I gave him the right money, right? This went on for a very short amount of time. And then a Swami, an Indian Swami, came into the crowd, and everyone parted, and he looked at me, and he looked at the other guy, and he looked at the money, and then he looked at everyone, and then he walked away and didn't say anything, and then everyone walked away. And I walked away too. And I'm just touching on what I was talking about before, that I wrote this down as it came to me. Japa is not an antidote to be applied to the site of overactivity. The japa, that thing that you walk away with, you don't have to have an argument with the part of you that is saying, I am this, I am that, I am overactive, I'm mad or anything. You can just walk away with it somewhere else. And that's the thing I was also touching on, is you can go to another part in your body. It's not suppression. It's just, I'm sick of the overactivity. So why am I fighting with this guy who's trying to pretend he's got a 20 rupee note instead of a $20 note? There's some thoughts about japa for me. It's something that happens throughout the day. It's inherently tied to my breath. And I do japa in all parts of my body. Front of the spine, the back of the spine, all the chakras, wherever, the middle of the spine, the top of the head. I used to have a singing teacher in my 30s, Murray Madadi, and his great phrase was, he said, don't sing to me, speak to me. He said, I don't care if you got a beautiful voice or not. If you can't speak to me, then it's totally useless. He had the ability to project his voice out of any part of his spine, which he demonstrated to me only once, which was quite an amazing thing. He could make it come out of this part of his spine, or this part, or this part, or here, or right down the bottom of his spine. So when I'm listening to him, I'm going, the sound's coming out of the bottom of his spine. No, now it's coming out of the top of his head. So I think placement of mantra is a very important thing that I would like to emphasize.
Wonderful.